Welcome to the review on Gaia's Garden, a guide to home-scale permaculture. Toby Hemenway wrote this book in 2000 and then updated it in 2009. So it's a second edition. He first starts out describing what permaculture is and then talks about a garden's ecology. He's not much for the typical landscapes of lawns and a few flowers and shrubs bordering it. There is not enough diversity for insects and animals to thrive. So I really like what he says. In nature, there is no such thing as waste. Everything is food for something else, connected in life and death to many other species. Biodiversity is key in allowing countless relationships to form. Designing the ecological garden. This is a very, very helpful chapter because I just bought 4.5 acres of raw land and want to glean as much information as I can before I start landscaping it. I appreciated his insights on how circular gardens are more efficient than straight rows. And basically, to sum it up, look to nature for design, like using a spiral or the veining of a leaf for patterns. I thought that was brilliant, and I'm very excited to start formulating that idea with my ground. I don't want to give it all away, but this chapter was worth the purchase of the book. Now, bringing the soil to life. This chapter went very in-depth on the composition of soil and how essential it is for growing. It was very scientific and I was fascinated. This guy knows what he's talking about. He says there are 3 ways to build your soil, and that is compost, sheet mulching, and cover crops. And he goes into detail on all 3. So, to let you in on a little secret though, his favorite method is sheet mulching. He gives some great tables here on cover crops. Very important to have cover crops. All right, chapter 5 is catching, conserving, and using water. It was very practical in describing the benefits of incorporating swales and ponds in your landscape. He does an in-depth section on how to make a swale. And how much water can come off a roof is phenomenal. I had no idea. But the section that intrigued me the most was about using gray water. He provides a very detailed scenario of how to use it. So I'm wondering if any of the viewers know if this is allowed where they live. Those living in desert climates would surely benefit from utilizing their gray water. And Toby says it's very beneficial for the plants. And I'm all for recycling, so this would be amazing. All right, in this chapter, he's pretty cute. He says, to me, harvesting annuals is like small-scale, clear-cut logging. He's very much into perennial vegetable gardening. So here he gives a summary of this chapter. I've pointed out that many plants can play a wide range of ecological roles as mulch makers, nutrient accumulators, nitrogen fixers, insect attractors, pest repellents, fortress plants, spike roots, wildlife nurturers, and shelter belters. I found this chapter absolutely fascinating. I thought I knew about plants before, but this has certainly broadened my understanding. I can hardly wait to start planting different little microclimates in my yard. Now, this chapter is a benefit of insects, birds, and small domesticated animals like chickens and rabbits, etc. The main takeaway is that if you have harmful insects, do not spray. The predators will eventually arrive and take care of them. Creating communities for the garden is all about interplanting of plants. Basically, how plants can enhance the growing and support of the other plants. Grouping of these plants are called guilds, and guilds are usually based around a tree, like a fruit tree. Really fascinating and fun ideas to consider in the designing of these guilds. I can hardly wait to grow my own guild and start doing my own guild designs. Now, designing garden guilds. This chapter gives a few ideas on how to plant a guild, but he stresses that each region is different in plants, so there's no set rule. But he does give good ideas. Now get this, because of writing this book, the author went from 10 acres in rural Oregon to a 50 by 100 foot lot in the city of Portland. Well, at least now he can give advice on permaculture gardening in the city. Anyway, good stuff in here. He gives great ideas. Now his last chapter is a summary of what he has previously written. And then he has some charts, some good charts about various trees, shrubs, and herb layers that are very useful, telling the benefit of each plant. So he really goes into depth. Valuable resource. Now I'd like to read the bio. Toby Hemenway is an adjunct professor in the Graduate School of Education at Portland State University, scholar in residence at Pacific University, and a biologist consultant for the Biomimicry Guild. He was the editor of Permaculture Activists, a journal of ecological design and sustainable culture, from 1999 to 2004. He teaches, consults, and lectures on permaculture and ecological design throughout the U.S. and other countries. He lives with his wife in Portland, Oregon, where he is developing sites and resources for urban sustainability. And he has a website, patternliteracy.com. Now, sadly, I learned that he has passed away. I've watched some of his lectures on YouTube that were very good too, so I can recommend those. So if I could sum up in a nutshell what I got from this book, it's all about the microclimates and how to plant according to them. Very valuable guidance. I really enjoyed this book very much, and I would highly recommend you get it for yourself. Rest in peace, Mr. Hemenway, and thank you for this book.